janme Prabhu se Chakudana niroje janme janme Prabhu se Vivekan Vivek Bhokasito Vivekan Vivek Bhokasito Prema Bhaktiya Vite Abhija Vinasayate Prema Bhaktiya Vite Abhija Vinasayate Vedagaya Haracharito Vedagaya Haracharito Viguru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Viguru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu Lokanatha Lokera Divana Lokanatha Lokera Divana Ah Prabhu Koro Jaya Jaya Moy Padachaya Ah Prabhu Koro Jaya Jaya Moy Padachaya Devi Jasa Gusuti Bhuvana Gusuti Bhuvana Devi Jasa Gusuti Bhuvana Shiva Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Savior of the world, Srila Prabhupada ki. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Krishna Prestaya Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachayane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi, Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Nitai Chaitanya Chanda Nitai Gaur Chanda Gaura Hari. Jai Chaitanya Chanda Nitai Gaur Chanda Gaura. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe. Jaya Radha Nila Madhavada Nila Madhavade. Nila Madhavada. Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Swami Shri Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Janavalabha Giridvanajari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Huh? For me, nothing is better than something. Hey. Oh, Krishna, 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 Krishna. So today is Diwali, and I'm sure there's going to be a class tonight about Diwali. Yeah? No. No class? Wow. But anyway, huh? No class. A low class or no class? Low class is today, here, right now, present. But anyway, I just thought I would read about an incident that happened in Vrindavan on this day, some 5,000 years ago, when probably the most astounding Vatsala Leela ever happened, because no one ever can restrain Krishna from whatever Krishna wants to do, because everything rests on Krishna, all philosophy rests on Krishna, all energies rest on Krishna, everything throughout all of the manifested worlds, both the spiritual and material, rest on Krishna. So just how does somebody come up and tie a rope around Krishna and refrain him from engaging in any activities whatsoever? That's what happens during the Damodara Leela. So, and Srila Prabhupada, actually, it's very nice. Just to set the scene a little bit, today is Diwali, and also in Vrindavan it was Diwali. It's a particular festival for admitting the Lord back into our hearts and to our lives in Ayodhya many millions of years ago, when Lord Ram had gone to he was actually banished from his kingdom, and towards the end of that, his wife, Sita Devi, got abducted by the demon Ravana, who was Vijay from Vaikuntha, who were cursed to take birth as demons. This was their second birth as demons. And they were very fortunate in their previous birth as Hiranyakasipu and Hiranyaksha to be killed personally by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which purified them in their demonic state. Therefore, we see that as Ravan and Kumbhakarna, they had some bit of purification, in that Ravan, having taken over the three worlds, extracted the deity of Varahadev from Indraloka and brought it down to Lanka to worship. Therefore, he was engaging Brahmanas, strangely enough, in the worship of the deity which created all the havoc in their previous birth, Varahadev. right? Because it was Varahadev, as we just read in our reading program in the evenings, who killed Hiranyaksha, causing Hiranyakasipu to totally flip out and began attacking the devotees of Vishnu. Because just like if you destroy, and this is Hiranyakasipu's own paraphrasing here, just like when you destroy the roots of a tree, the entire tree will die. Therefore, in his rampage against Varahadev, Vishnu, in killing his brother, he sent all his demonic friends, and so actually soldiers, not so much friends, out to create havoc amongst the Brahminical community. And therefore they burned their houses, killed their cows, uprooted their trees, burned their crops, because they knew that if Vishnu is not worshipped, he would die. Not exactly true, but that was Hiranyakasipu's take on Vishnu's existence. Because as a demon, and it's really funny, the demons have this quality of where they just do not believe in a supreme Godhead. They just can't wrap their little minds around this thing, right? But as Ravan, they actually worshipped Vishnu still. And because he became purified, having been killed by the Lord himself. And not just killed by the Lord himself, but killed by Nrsingadev, who is one of the full incarnations of Krishna, as is Ravana and Kumbhakarna. They're full incarnations, Ram. So therefore they get killed only by the absolute truth, Supreme Personality, Godhead, Swayam Bhagavan, Krishna himself. You know, some of the main full incarnations of Rahadev, Ram, Nrsingadev, Krishna, Balaram. These are full incarnations. And they come to dispatch the demons. And particularly they come to fight and dispatch the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha to bring them back to their actual service of guarding Vaikuntha from non-devotees, which is how they got in trouble to begin with. And then they actually get delivered back to their original position by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who kills their enviousness by the compassion of Nityananda Prabhu. Because they again came not as demons as much as fallen brahmanas in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. And in their fallen condition, they struck Lord Nityananda with a piece of broken pot, which cut his head, which infuriated Lord Chaitanya to the extent that he came upon them with his chakra ready to just whack them. But Nityananda said, no, don't do that. If you start killing these demons, when you're going to start? This is Kali Yuga. Everybody deserves to be killed like this. Right? So, they became great devotees and very, very humble to the Lord's will. They built a beautiful ghat on what was then the bank of the Ganges. The Ganges is now moved and the ghat has thoroughly disappeared as far as that goes. But and they would come every day in the morning very, very early and clean everything before any of the other devotees woke up to take their bath. So everything was very nice and clean. And then as soon as everybody would finish in the mid-morning, they would clean it all again. And in this way, they maintained this service to the Vaishnavas for the rest of their mortal life. Having thus purified themselves, they went back to the spiritual world. So just exactly how is someone going to tie Krishna up and keep him from doing any particular thing? If he can carry this service to his devotees, Jai and Vijay, through millennium after millennium after millennium, just to deliver them back to their original service. You know, it's quite astounding. Now, I don't know, there's never been any information I've received about what the replacement guards were up to when Jai and Vijay came back. And whether or not, and how they gave up their service. But, that is another one of the mysteries of Krishna. So, this is chapter 9 of the Krishna book. It happened on Diwali day. So, which is why the month of Kartik, already auspicious, becomes even more auspicious. Okay? Mother Yashoda binds Lord Krishna. Once upon a time, seeing that her maidservants were engaged in different household duties, Mother Yashoda personally took charge of churning butter. And while she churned butter, she sang the childhood pastimes of Krishna and enjoyed thinking of her son. The end of her sari was tightly wrapped while she churned, and on account of her intense love for her son, milk automatically dripped from her breast, which moved as she labored very hard, churning with 2 hands. The bangles and bracelets on her hands tinkled as they touched each other, and her earrings and breast shook. There were drops of perspiration on her face, and the flower garland, which was on her head, scattered here and there. Before this picturesque sight, Lord Krishna appeared as a child. He felt hungry, and to increase his mother's love, he wanted her to stop churning. He indicated that her first business was to let him suck her breast, and then she could churn butter later. And this is Krishna just reminding everybody of what our real business is here. Like, she's churning butter for the festival of Diwali. It's a big deal. They're the king and queen of Vrindavan. And all of their servants and everybody is off making all these arrangements for the entire village of Vrindavan to enjoy Diwali. That's why everybody's so busy. So they engaged them all in the bigger festival while she took care of the regular household thing. And in this description, one could wonder just why do they get so detailed? Hair scattered, breast moving, hands churning, all these different things, and you can see how, and you see the ladies when they're busy here, they don't cover their head with their sari, rather they wrap it really tightly and tuck it in their waist so it stays on them while they're doing all this physical activity, right? This personalizes these persons, that they're real. Real people historically and spiritually and all of these different things, right? So, Mother Yashoda took her son on her lap and pushed the nipple of her breast into his mouth. And while Krishna was sucking the milk and smiling, she was enjoying the beauty of her child's face. Suddenly, the milk which was on the stove began to boil over. Just to stop the milk from spilling, Mother Yashoda at once put Krishna aside and went to the stove. Left in that state by his mother, Krishna became very angry, and his lips and eyes became red in rage. He bit his lips with his teeth, and taking up a piece of stone, he immediately broke the butter pot. He took the butter out of it, and while with false tears in his eyes, he began to eat the butter in a secluded place. I submit, my mother. Anybody that's raised kids know that they do this just to mess with you. It's intentional. So we're born with these prarabdha karmas. We don't learn them just because we get older and older as we go along. Okay? So, in the meantime, Mother Yashoda returned to the churning place after setting the overflowing milk pan in order. She saw the broken pot in which the churning yogurt had been kept. Since she could not find her boy, she concluded that the broken pot was his work. She smiled as she thought, this child is very clever. After breaking the pot, he has left this place fearing punishment. After she sought all over, she found her son sitting on a big wooden grinding mortar, which was kept upside down. He was taking butter from a pot, which was hanging from the ceiling on a swing. and he was feeding it to the monkeys. She saw Krishna looking this way and that way in fear of her because he was conscious of his naughty behavior. After seeing her son so engaged, she very silently approached him from behind. Krishna, however, saw her coming towards him with a stick in her hand, and he immediately got down from the grinding mortar and began to flee in fear of Krishna. Mother Yashoda chased him to all corners, trying to capture the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never approached even by the expert meditations of great yogis. Yogis simply come to the Praman platform of the Brahmajyoti. They don't do Krishna in his personal form because the reason they can't perform bhakti is because really they don't want to. They simply want to enjoy that state of full Krishna consciousness in terms of the Brahmajyoti and just float in the ecstasy of non-material existence. They want to escape the material world, but they don't want to love Krishna. So they get very hard-hearted. So if you see Krishna, your heart has to melt. It's inevitable. So they don't want to see Krishna. They want to enjoy this feeling of no obligation. It's quite an irresponsible state of liberation. In other words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is never caught by the yogis and speculators, was playing just like a little child for such a great devotee as Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda, however, could not easily catch the fast-running child because of her thin waist and heavy body. Still, she tried to follow him as fast as possible. Her hair loosened and the flowers on her hair fell to the ground. Although she was tired, and she somehow reached her naughty child and captured him. He smeared his hands all over his eyes, which were anointed with black cosmetics. The child saw his mother's face while she stood over him, and his eyes became restless from fear. Having been caught, a child first off tries to figure out just what am I supposed to do now? The idea was to not get caught, so he's still looking for an exit. But trust me, she has him backed into a corner. There is no exit. Not without going within an arm's reach of her. And for the first time in anyone's experience, throughout the entire cosmic manifestation, she's ready to beat him with a stick. Now, we'd like to think it's just some little thin thing, but no, they don't keep thin sticks hanging around a cowherd village. They have nice big ones for, controlling the cows and etc. This is not just some little bitty wispy piece of twig. This was a stick. And she was determined in her anger and anguish of having everything disturbed, what she was doing. Okay? So Krishna is legitimately showing great fear. There's a very long, elaborate description of this in Shiva Ram Radesh's book, Damodar Jihani. Quite interesting how this all plays out. Mother Yashoda could understand that Krishna was unnecessarily afraid. Never seen this before, remember? And for his benefit, she wanted to allay his fears. Being the topmost well-wisher of her child, Mother Yashoda thought, if the child is too fearful of me, I don't know what will happen to him. Mother Yashoda then threw away her stick. In order to punish him, she thought to bind his hands with some ropes. She did not know the power of her little child, or that it was actually impossible for her to bind the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is Mother Yashoda not really knowing that she can punish him. But she needs to do something. He is, as they say, completely out of control. Mother Yashoda was thinking that Krishna was her tiny child. She did not know that the child had no limitation. There is no inside or outside of him, nor beginning or end. He is unlimited and all-pervading. Indeed, he is himself the whole cosmic manifestation. Still, Mother Yashoda was thinking of Krishna as her child. Although he is beyond the reach of all senses, she endeavored to bind him to a wooden grinding mortar. But when she tried to bind him, she found that the rope she was using was too short by 2 inches. So she gathered more ropes from the house and added to it. But still she found the same shortage. In this way, she collected all the ropes available at home. But when the final knot was added, she saw that the rope was still 2 inches too short. Mother Yashoda was smiling, but she was astonished. How was this happening? Now bear in mind, she's a cowherd. She knows how to tie ropes together. She knows how to tie knots. This is Yoga Maya, influencing her that no matter how many times she gets to the end of the rope, she still doesn't have enough rope to tie it, a knot. Even though all she had to do was undo it 1 loop, and there's enough rope. But Yoga Maya has her so confused in thinking, to begin with, that she can tie Krishna, that she can't tie Krishna, and she just can't figure it out. Why I'm using all this rope and I still can't tie him. In attempting to bind her son, she became tired. She was perspiring, and the garland on her head fell down. Then Lord Krishna appreciated the hard labor of his mother, her endeavor, and being compassionate upon her, he agreed to be bound up by the ropes. Krishna, playing as a human child in the house of Mother Yashoda, was performing his own selected pastimes. As the pure devotee surrenders himself unto the lotus feet of the Lord, who may either protect or vanquish the devotee forgets his subordinate position. Similarly, the Lord also feels transcendental pleasure by submitting himself to the protection of the devotees. This was exemplified by Krishna's surrender unto his mother, Yashoda Devi. Krishna is the supreme bestower of all kinds of liberation to his devotees, but the benediction which was bestowed upon Mother Yashoda was never experienced even by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva or the goddess of fortune. No one gets to catch Krishna. No one. Unless Krishna so appreciates that person's love. Therefore, Krishna is known as Bhaktavatsala, one who is very, very kind and ultimately captured by his devotee. And therefore, he does not just give his bhakti to anyone. You have to earn it. Okay? And he still has to give it. That's love. You love Krishna under every circumstance, and he decides how he's going to deal with you. And you accept that, right? I've been having so much fun for the past so many months with having the Shashastika prayers hanging all over the temple. You can't escape from just what Krishna is willing to do with his devotees. Right? Very nice. So, otherwise, no one can control the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As the pure devotee surrenders himself unto the lotus feet of the Lord, who may either protect or vanquish the devotee forgets his subordinate position. Similarly, the Lord also feels transcendental pleasure by submitting himself to the protection of the devotee. This was exemplified by Krishna's surrender unto Mother Yashoda. Krishna is the supreme bestower of all kinds of liberation to his devotees, but The benediction which was bestowed upon Mother Yashoda was never experienced even by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva or the goddess of fortune. I just wanted to read that twice. Sorry. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as the son of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, is never so completely known to the yogis and speculators, but he is easily available to his devotees, nor is he appreciated as the supreme reservoir of all the pleasure by the yogis and the speculators. I mean, he's really establishing this idea that Gyan is not the answer, even though we've certainly heard this in Bhagavatam class before, how important Gyan is. Gyan is not so important, actually, according to Krishna. What's important to Krishna is love. After binding her son, Mother Yashoda engaged herself in household affairs. At that time, bound up to the wooden mortar, Krishna could see a pair of trees before him, which were known as Arjuna trees. The great reservoir of pleasure, Lord Sri Krishna, thus thought to himself, Mother Yashoda, first of all, left me without feeding me sufficient milk. And therefore, I broke the pot of yogurt and distributed the stock of butter in charity to the monkeys. Now she has bound me up to this wooden mortar, so I shall do something more mischievous than before. So don't try to figure out Krishna. He can always come up with something new. And thus he thought of pulling down the two very tall Arjuna trees. These were the tallest trees in Vrindavan, by the way. They were like a landmark. You would see them from great distances and know, I'm heading to Vrindavan. There's a history behind the pair of Arjuna trees. In their previous lives, they had been the sons of Kuvera, and their names was Nalakuvara and Manigriva. Fortunately, they later came within the vision of the Lord. And in their previous lives, the great sage Narada had cursed them in order to bestow the highest benediction of seeing Lord Krishna. This benediction curse was bestowed upon them because of their forgetfulness due to intoxication. And this story will be narrated in the next chapter. So that's a whole nother story, but I can basically paraphrase it that this is what happens in this next chapter is a result of a disregard of the hierarchy of Krishna within the universe due to money. These sons of Kuvera, Manigriva and Nalakuvara, were wealthy kids. They were, born with the proverbial silver spoon in their mouth, which in fact was more likely gold. It's just that as Kali Yuga progresses, silver is a little more attainable. So we say, silver. But these two personalities actually completely disregarded the devotees of the Lord, Narada Muni specifically. And it's a very nice story in the Krishna book, and it's an even more amazing description in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam itself, because it very carefully goes verse to verse to verse how Narada Muni is thinking of what he can do to benefit these two devotees of the Lord who have become so confused that they're trying to enjoy in the material world to such an extent they're willing to forget who Krishna is and who the devotees are. This sound familiar? Yeah, so an interesting thing about trees is that their consciousness is limited to simply eating and growing. Because you see that the tree will grow in accordance to where it can get water and how it can get water, right? And how it gets sunlight. It's really interesting. If you take a lot of time, actually, I do that a lot myself personally. I really like to appreciate nature. But I like to see how the trees grow in accordance to their food supply. So there's consciousness there. There's planning and thought process that happens amongst trees. But it's so limited that even when you chop their branches off, they don't slap you, except in The Wizard of Oz, which is a really funny story written in America. And when the poor girl was picking apples off the tree snatched them back from her because they weren't hers. Yeah, it's quite interesting. These themes, it's funny, over history, these themes of Bhagavat philosophy pop in and out of intelligent, surrendered persons, even though they don't know it. How these animated things take place. It's quite interesting, because you see all over the rock and roll world, music and etc. There's so many little snippets of very, very correct philosophy, but completely surrounded by intoxication, wealth, and so many other crazy things. But they really are little snippets of truth that happen. The Rolling Stones, I can't get no satisfaction. Right? It's amazing. But it's true. No matter where you look, it's not going to happen. There are so many interesting things that happen there. These are empowered personalities, actually, not necessarily all the rock and roll people, but these are empowered personalities that take birth throughout their numerous and innumerable births in the material world trying to get out, where Krishna helps them just a little bit. They get a little realization here, a little realization there. Gradually, they come to the point of wanting to associate with Krishna. In this story, these two Arjuna trees, for whatever their consciousness was, they were able to witness Krishna in his childhood pastimes. And they became purified by, first off, being completely limited of their ability to engage in sense gratification, and then to watch Krishna exhibit his various pastimes. Be careful, Hannah. Come back later today. I know you're running up. You have some things to do, but Hare Krishna. You're coming back tonight, right? Okay. Just making sure. Haribo. You'd be surprised how people come to that conclusion. Anyone can leave. Srila Prabhupada always said, and we see with the twin Arjuna trees here, never underestimate the power of Maya to delude the living entity. I mean, here in Krishna's pastimes, Maya, illusion, is coming directly from Krishna, Yoga Maya. And your Mother Yashoda really thinks she can chastise Krishna. I mean, even when you look at the picture of Krishna tied to this mortar, what we're talking about, we're dealing with like a tree trunk, 3-4 feet tall, right, with one end flat. Goes, looks pretty because they narrow it into the middle and like that, making a nice carving. And then the top of it is, kind of hollowed out in a concave fashion so that you can break up your spices and things in the tree and grind up stuff, right? So, that said, it's enormously heavy, right? And you can't tie a toddler to it and expect him to drag it around the yard. It won't happen. But we're dealing with Krishna. And he thought, well, if she thinks she can punish me by tying me to this grinding mortar, I'll show her. And then he goes and literally crawls with this big mortar behind him between two enormous trees and just pulls them down. Now, you can imagine, we just had a big storm. There's trees and stuff all over the road and things, right? What does her parents think? What does Nanda Maharaj think when he comes and finds Krishna among the rubble of these two trees? He immediately unties Krishna and says, "Who has done this to you?" Krishna sitting on his lap, tears still in his eyes, false tears. He looks at his mother, at Nanda Maharaj, and he goes, "Ma." And he's like, "Whoa, what?" And then she has to fess up, and she comes out completely in tears. Say, "Yeah, this and he and I, and well, you know, no real explanation for it, because in her effort to control and confine Krishna, as far as everyone else is concerned, he almost got killed by having these two trees that he pulled down himself fall upon him. She's not going to try that again, I can assure you. It only happened once. And that was part of the rasa that was going on in Vrindavan. Everybody simply loved Krishna. When the gopis caught him stealing their butter, they followed him home and reported to Mother Yashoda, "This boy, this, that. And we keep our storerooms dark, and we hang the yogurt and butter up from the rafters, and this boy's jewels shine so effulgently that even in the dark he finds our butter and yogurt, and he breaks them." We saw him, we watched him do it. So what does Mother say? "Okay, fine, I'm very sorry. I'll remove the jewels." And as soon as the other gopis heard that, no, don't do that. He's so beautiful. Please. Never mind. We don't care. It's not an issue. Right? This is love. So anyway, it's a whole big pastime. There's actually many places, like Chaitanya Prabhu brought up yesterday, there's many Puranic stories and different aspects and visions of what goes on and how. But this particular pastime is the epitome of parental love. They did something to Krishna that caused them to, at least from their line of vision, almost lose him. And you can't imagine what that feels like to a parent. We had the great pleasure of experiencing that in our early parental life, my wife and I. What it's like to almost lose a child. Whew. Yeah, twice, same girl. Caused that. The second time it took my wife probably half a year longer to get over it than my daughter to get over it. But that's parental love. That almost losing the object of that love. So how do the gopis feel when Krishna leaves Vrindavan? As far as they're concerned, they lost Krishna. So they were just put in a tailspin for the rest of their mortal existence. Because of that, they actually felt in their hearts they lost Krishna. Therefore, some days they were lamenting, "Oh, we'll never have Krishna again." And other times they were very condemning. "Oh, you've come as a messenger, an unreliable messenger from an unreliable master. Why should I talk to you? What are you going to do for me? You're going to make Krishna appear?" No. Like that. Now, who would think of basically cursing the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Out of love, despair, whatever. It makes you crazy. So don't fall in love in this material world. It'll make you crazy. Unless you fall in love with Krishna. It's okay to be crazy for Krishna. Prabhupada wrote a nice pamphlet one time about that. because we were being accused of being crazy, right? So he said, who is crazy? Wrote this pamphlet, and in it he said, we're all crazy, but we are crazy for Krishna. Everybody else is crazy for all these other things, but we are crazy for Krishna. So it's all right to be crazy for Krishna. Prabhupada confirmed this many years later, walking on a beach in Juhu, in Bombay area, which is, they say, described as the gateway to the West. In other words, the most material, what used to be, not anymore, the most materialistically inspired place in whole of India. And I've talked to many of devotee that came, our decorations are committing suicide here today. One of the wings just fell off. And another one here. And this one's slowly lamenting to the point where it's melting. It looked good on paper, right? But anyway, we try to serve Krishna as best we can, and in that way we advance slowly. Lifetime after lifetime we increase till we have pure love of God. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I heard that Krishna was giving yogurt to the monkeys because of in the Ramayana when the monkeys helped someone.
Don't know. Maybe. There's a lot of things out there. Some of it true, some of it not. Some of it believable, some of it not believable. Some of it justification, plausible, deniability, and all these other things. Actually, Krishna, those were his friends. They were persons that had taken birth as monkeys to get his association. And when Krishna was being mischievous. And trust me, you go to Vrindavan, you can just see how mischievous these monkeys are. They got a new program because we took away all their forest. They ransom off your eyeglasses on a regular basis, day in and day out. And they take them, right? And they go up and they just nibble on the end of it. I have these are proof. Both of them are nibbled on. They got stolen 3 times. So they just nibble. Take almost nothing off. And then if you really don't care, they take them and they go. Huh? Oh, don't worry. These things, they survived it. Trust me, they won't break. I don't buy things that break. But and if you just ignore them and walk off, they'll follow you. They have no reason to steal these except for getting the ransom, which is not a small carton of fruity, a big carton of fruity, or 2 small ones. I tested this theory. No, not anymore. They're into fruities, mango fruities. Yeah, they're very upscale monkeys now. Yeah, I don't think they'd even take bananas anymore. Yes, that's also true. But if you don't give them enough, they still won't give you. They'll sit one of if you give them a small fruity, they'll put it next to them, and they'll look at you again. If you've got one small one, you should have 2, right? And then when you give them, it used to be with bananas. You give them 2 bananas, they'll look at you like you're crazy. Give them 4 bananas, they'll trade the clothes back. But this way, now it's actually become really gangs of them, and they're so expert. They have engaged all the local merchants around where they generally work. They work in mostly towards the marketplaces, right? So all the shopkeepers keep these little cans of these little cartons of mango fruity, right? Because they know you're going to want your glasses back, as much as the monkeys know that. So they'll sell you that carton for any price they want to get. And they do. They send their boy out. Oh yes, it is 20 rupees, 30 rupees, 40 rupees. You have to pay them to get the mango fruity to get your glasses back. So it's a whole, and therefore they don't try to run the monkeys off either. It's good economics. It's astounding. I mean, they literally jump through those little three-wheelers, those auto rickshaws. They jump through them. You only feel your glasses disappearing. You don't even see the thing. And they hide underneath the shopkeepers. You know, they always have this little porch. They hide up under there. They're completely expert, absolutely expert. I mean, and we see that even if it's because the monkeys helped them, I don't know. But it is also true that the monkeys know Krishna will feed them. They know if he's up to, because, you know, Krishna's, even though he can, he's not going to eat a full pot of butter. He's going to share it. And he can't share it with his boyfriends, the Gopals, because they'll really get busted. When they get home, they're going to be in all kind of trouble. But the monkeys, they're monkeys. They don't get in trouble. I mean, nowhere does it show Krishna shared it with his friends, does it? No. Because his friends would get in all kind of troubles if he gave it to them. So he gives it to the monkeys, and the reason he doesn't give it to his friends, he tells his friend, no, this isn't good butter anyway. I don't want to eat this. I'll give it to the monkeys. And the boys just roll over on the floor laughing, you know, because he knows these people in Vrindavan, they know how to make butter. It's so good. Even to this day, you can go there and get fresh makhan, and it is so tasty. You don't find it anywhere else like that. It is so delicious. So yeah, there's no question of it. But Krishna satisfies everyone. The boys get great humor. The monkeys get fed, and they're happy. Everybody's happy. The gopis can get angry at Krishna and then look at him and fall in love with him again. Bewitching. Krishna's pastimes. He does many, many things at once. So I'm sorry I didn't answer your question. Sarva, you were about to put your hand up also? Oh, that came from the Wizard of Oz. When she was going through the, what was it called? The Enchanted Forest, I think. She was hungry, so they picked apples off the trees, and the trees would snatch them back from her. And then they decided to start throwing the apples at her to run her off. It's a fairy tale written in America. Illustrating that trees are conscious. So, that being said, being that, you know, the two sons of Kuvera were trapped within the trees, they were able to consciously understand Krishna was there. Right? But also to exhibit that this philosophy of understanding God keeps cropping up in the remotest of places. And therefore, when you read certain pastimes, just like back a few days ago or so, Rukmini was criticizing Krishna, and the purport explains, well, really what they were saying were very positive ways of glorifying Krishna. And that crops up in the Bhagavatam continuously. That the demons come and say horrible things about Krishna, and then the acharyas say, but actually what he meant, because Krishna was infallible, therefore, like that. So that kind of consciousness happens. So these things keep showing up historically because they go into our heads, and you realize the material world is temporary, and that the real solution is somewhere else besides material sense gratification. So these kind of things crop up continuously in poetry and stories and music and so many other things throughout the ages, just to remind us to look for something else. Yeah. The bargaining, the monetary exchange is in the form of cartons of mango juice. Yeah, but they don't use the straw. They just rip into it. And they're very careful not to spill any. It's astounding. They really don't spill any. They bite off the corner, and they simply drink it like, and, they hold it up, and then they drink it. It's like, these guys are too much, Jai, Gantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Haribol.